Morning. It's 9 o'clock, Tuesday, June 9th, and time for the Board of County Commissioner meeting of Indian River County, Florida. We are going to begin with an invocation by Stan Bowling, followed by the pledge by Joseph Baird, the County Administrator. Please rise.
Let's pray. Lord God, we want to give you thanks this morning for life. We recognize that we didn't create ourselves, and that although you allow us to help sustain ourselves and others, that really we are all in your hands, and we're grateful for that. We ask that you would use us in your hands to do things that are good, things that glorify yourself. We also ask for your light, which we need in all of our dark places. We ask that you would topple our false idols and things that stand in our way of doing those things. And we ask that you would give us wisdom and discernment. We ask that you would give us the courage we need to lead and to follow rightly. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
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 Thanks, Dan. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. At the start, I would like to announce that everything is well with Chairman Wesley Davis. He just had a family matter he had to attend to. If I have it right, he's taking his daughter to college, something which is a great event for both the father, mother, and the daughter. We'll move on to item number 4, additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
Move approval.
If there are none others, I would like to add under my matters a small item on the All Aboard Florida and the FDFC hearing, if it's okay. Okay.
Approve as amended,
from Commissioner Flesher, a second from Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. There are no proclamations or presentations. There are no minutes for us today. Under information items, if I may, I'd like to pull one thing just to promote a event that's going to take place Wednesday, June 17th, 2015. It's from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. at the City of Vero Beach Community Center, and it deals with car safety. It's an event where older people, such as myself and Peter, can go and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and have ourselves sort of refitted in our cars. I mean, sometimes as we get older, we don't really realize it, but our driving changes, how we sit in an automobile changes, and FDOT, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, with the help of some others, is putting together this safety event for older drivers, and I think it's a great opportunity for many of us who are getting up in years to actually make sure that we are driving safety. I mean, I understand that you look at us as, well, yeah, we see
You give the guy a gavel, and now all of a sudden he's a stand-up comedian or something. I don't know.
I'm actually very serious about this. I think it's a great event, and I hope a lot of our members of our community take advantage of it. So,
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question. Is it true they show how to properly use hands-free dialing in this class for your cell phone?
well, you absolutely know that I have no knowledge about anything like that. So,
Well, I'll be attending in about 10 years.
so we'll move right along today
Thank goodness.
to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to pull item E, please.
Very good. We'll pull item E. Any others? Is there any member of the public who would like anything from the consent agenda pulled?
Mr. Chairman, move as amended.
We have a motion to
Second.
and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Item E.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to enter into a public transportation joint participation agreement with Florida Department of Transportation with our GO line. And as many of you know, over the last, probably over a year now, there's been some issues with the City of Vero Beach and parking down on the ocean front, and some conflicts between the merchants and then some of the hotels and restaurants about staff and where they can park and the 3-hour limit and a lot of things like that. And so it's exciting that both the public and the private sector have come together for a solution for this. And I'd like to ask Karen Deagle, the Senior Resource Association Executive Director and runs our Go Line program, to come up and just tell us the good news here, Karen, and how you all were able to figure out and solve this dilemma.
Good morning. Well, actually, I wasn't just the only one that tried to figure this out. Of course, it started with the Oceanside Business Association, and George is here today as well to represent them. And, of course, Penny Chandler with the Chamber was also involved. And there was a lot of discussion over the last year with the owners of many businesses, hotels, restaurants, businesses in the on the Oceanside District. Go Line, we were approached in consideration of a shuttle, circulator shuttle that would run just on Oceanside. So we, of course, needed to look for funding for such a route. Obviously, we don't have that kind of funding in our operational funds at this time, and so we approached Florida Department of Transportation, who has a commuter assistant grant that was available to us, and we did apply for it. Received it, but the caveat, of course, to all of our state grants is that we need to have a match, some match funding. And so we approached the business association and the businesses on the Oceanside about funding that 25%, which equates to $40,000 for 1 year. And after a lot of discussion and looking at it, I'm very pleased to say that the Vero Beach Hotel and Spa wanted to come up with the full amount of funding for this project. And I'm pleased to introduce, standing beside me, is Duncan Clements. He is the general manager of the Vero Beach Hotel and Spa. So I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of, I know, ourselves, Go Line, and the community for what you're doing. It's a wonderful public-private partnership that we're forming, and they are coming up with the $40,000 for this first year. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, just that obviously we recognize as being a member of the community there that this is a great opportunity in terms of the funding, and we didn't want to let that slip through. And you know, we're very happy to be in partnership with the city and the county on this.
Duncan, is there any truth? I heard a rumor that to entice readership that everybody that rides the Go Line will get a free spa treatment. Was that correct? Or?
That would sound extremely good, yes, but unfortunately I don't speak for the spa.
Well, I want to, I think I can speak for the entire board here. It's very exciting when the private business side steps up like you're doing here, and to help resolve an issue that is a pretty big issue down there on the beach. So thank you for stepping up and doing that cost share. That's just a big thing, and I want to make sure we appreciate and let you know that we really appreciate you doing that. So,
I'd also like to mention a couple things about the route, just so that the public is aware. We are starting this route July 1st. The circulator, we're calling it the Beachside Circulator, it will be operating 7 days a week. So this is something new for the Go Line as well. Our offices will be open 7 days now. Sunday is the only route that will be running is the circulator route. The circulator route is going to start at Riverside Park. The city has given us ample parking, what we feel ample parking to begin with, on the south side behind the tennis courts will be the park and ride area. We'll be running 20-minute trips, 3 an hour. It will proceed out of that parking area, cross through Riverside Boulevard, which is in front of the Museum of Art and the Riverside Theater, up to Beachland Boulevard, going east on Beachland, and then north on A1A to Conway, taking Conway to Oceanside, and then all along Ocean side, or the Ocean side, and to Flamevine, and we're coming back down Cardinal, and back on Beachland Boulevard, back around to the Riverside Park again. So that will be, it's a circle. The signs for the circulator will be a circle, rather than our normal Go line signs. It will be depicted in the same colors. It's Route 16, lovingly calling it the Sweet 16, and but all of the signs will be circles rather than the rectangle shape, just to denote the difference between the two types of routes.
Good. Karen, what about, will there be a need for like a shelter at Riverside Park, or
Pardon me?
a bus shelter at Riverside? Or?
We're going to wait and see how all of this plays out, and we're going to monitor it, see how many car spots, where it's located, what the need is, and yes, we'll work from there once we analyze exactly what needs to be done.
Good. Well, I think this is a great project. It's kind of our first park and ride, so to speak, and I really hope that the public embraces it and really utilizes it and helps, free up the parking congestion down there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll move approval of staff recommendation.
I'd like to second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, a second from Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman?
I have
Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment.
Oh, and we'll start.
We'll start with Commissioner Flesher.
I just wanted to say that, Karen, yes, you were right. There were many people involved with this, and thank all of the people. I see some of them in the audience that have worked hard to make this joint cooperative a reality. And today I believe it's going to be a reality. And I just want to say that I'm sure the citizens are happy, the business community is happy, as well as the employees that had to respond. I see Police Chief Dave Curry is here.
I was remiss in mentioning that they are going to be monitoring that park and ride area more than now, so and they're stepping up to do that as well, so thank you, Chief.
But I'm sure he's pleased that he can utilize resources in a better manner for the rest of the community. So I think this has been a great benefit. The only reservation I had when hearing this, when you first called, was that nothing we do is temporary, and that this is reliant upon a grant and the benevolence, and I hope that that continues, because I would not want to be in the position where we would have to decide if we should continue this process at a great cost to the community. So I only hope that that funding is available to continue this, and I wish you great success.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zorn.
Yes, Karen, is during the Monday through Saturday cycling, is there a way where people that can ride the regular Go line from a normal pickup spot and ride that to the circle hub, if you want to call it that, there, and then get to work from there, where I know we have some people that are now driving to work, and this will pick up those, but is there any way where those two routes can connect?
There's actually a few different stops that will be connecting on Ocean Drive.
Okay. So
anyone that's taking Route 1, coming across the bridge from the mainland, they can take, the circulator should go the opposite way. Anyone that is parking their car at the park and ride could take the circulator and meet up with at a stop on Ocean Drive, and take Route 1 to get across the bridge and do any business on the inland or anywhere else. So yes.
Okay, great. And also with the events being promoted for the 1715 Fleet Society that's going to be hosting programs at the Vero Beach Museum of Art, and I'm not sure who their anchor hotel is on the beach, or if everybody's kind of doing their own thing, but I know a number of them are coming in from around the United States and some from overseas to attend these events, that I guess they could get on at the hotel and just kind of ride it in reverse, leaving to get over to the Riverside Park and the museum area.
Absolutely, and that's a perfect example of going both ways. The circulator, it will be stopping in front of Vero Beach Hotel and Spa. There's also at where the Ocean Grill is, in front of Casa de Este, and one at the Flame Vine. And then on Cardinal Drive, there's going to be 2 stops as well. So there's ample stops along the way that that any tourist or any beachgoer or any local could pick up and ride over to the museum.
And would it run the normal hours, or will it have particular hours?
It's running, actually it's different hours in 5:20. The first will be 5:20 a.m. and will run till 6 p.m. each day.
Because you've got the morning shift coming into there.
That's right. We want to be able to get the morning shift employees to work.
Great. Well, I also wanted to extend a thank you to Mr. Clements and all the folks at the Vero Hotel and Spa. It's a great place. There's people that it's the reunion spot for all my family that grew up here but then went away, and they're always their favorite spot to come back to. And so I thank you for all you're doing for the community and this sponsorship.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask if there are any other questions or comments from any member of the public. There being none, I'll thank you both very much for this. This is a great event and a great addition to the community. And I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Duncan, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Move on to item 10A1, an ordinance eliminating sunset of ordinance amending section 300.02. Mr. Rangel.
Thank you very much. In May of 2014, the City of Vero Beach voted to extend their hours of operation for the sale and service of alcoholic beverages from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. The City Council also voted at that time to have in their ordinance a sunset provision that would eliminate that extension of the hours on June 15, 2015. On July 1st of 2014, this board adopted a very similar ordinance extending the hours of the sale and service of alcohol from 1 to 2 a.m. and also containing a sunset provision. I'd like to let this board know that on June 2nd, the City of Vero Beach City Council approved eliminating their sunset provision, and based upon the direction from this board on May 12th, 2015, I'm bringing back today the ordinance to eliminate the sunset provision from our code as well. Simply today we have a public hearing on this item, so I recommend that we open up the public hearing, take any input from the public, and then vote whether to adopt the ordinance, which would have a permanent hours for the sale and service of alcohol till 2 a.m. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rangel. I'll ask if there are any questions by the board of Mr. Rangel.
No, sir.
There being none, I will now open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to comment on this ordinance? Anybody from the public?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'd just like to ask Vero Police Chief Curry to come up for just a minute, please.
Sure. Mr. Curry, if you would. Good morning, Chief. That's good.
Yeah, good morning, Chief. Thank you. I know when you presented your update to the City Council, you had some numbers of kind of the pre and post of the ordinance, and there was a couple letters to the editor about it, but I think you explained it pretty well, and I just want to summarize it and just confirm with you. But basically, the net difference was about one additional call per month with the extended hours. Is that about correct?
Comparing 1 year to the other, yes.
Okay. And when I looked at the numbers, too, it seemed like the majority of those were more noise calls than any other incidents. Was that correct also?
Noise calls and some disturbances, but even looking at some that were coded disturbances, they were simply the establishment asking us to do a drive-by because of crowd and just maybe being preventive, if you will.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you. That's the only question I had of the Chief. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Sure.
And
Anybody?
Mr. Vice Chairman, we did hear from the sheriff at the last meeting, and he concurred that there was very little or no change whatsoever with the adjustment of hours.
Yeah, it appeared the sheriff had no problem with the
Yes.
ordinance, the extension of the hours. Anybody else from the public? I will close the public comment portion of the hearing. Any questions or comments from the board? Chair will entertain a motion.
Moves to have recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion for Commissioner Fletcher, second for Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes 3-1. Thank you very much. With Commissioner Zorc dissenting. Move on to departmental matters, Office of Management Budget, and discuss the Tourist Development Council 2015-2016 budget recommendations. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Solari. For the record, Jason Brown, County Budget Director. Each time this year, we bring the TDC recommendations for funding tourist development agencies to the board for approval. As you know, the county collects a total of 4 cents of local option tourist tax. 1.5 cents of that total is programmed for tourism promotion activities. This year, we had about $733,000 available for those activities. We received requests from the agencies totaling about $752,000. So we were looking at a shortfall of about $21,000. in total funding. An idea, I think, was initially floated by Commissioner Flesher, and a motion was made by Councilman Jim Hill and seconded, and it passed unanimously to make a 2.8% reduction in the requests for all of the agencies, which is what the $21,000 shortfall represented. There was some concern. There were 3 agencies that did not request an increase in funding, and that would have resulted in them actually receiving a decrease in funding from the previous year. So those agencies were held harmless, and we used about $2,500 of additional reserves to do that. So that motion basically passed unanimously. And so you see here the recommendation on page 83 of your agenda is for $733,990 in funding to those agencies. That was the TDC recommendation. Staff is recommending that the board approve that recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Jason? I'll ask if there are any questions from the public. Everybody being quiet this morning,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move staff recommendation to adopt and to move forward with the recommendations of the TDC.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, second from Commissioner O'Brien. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to Public Works, resolutions for asphalt millings improvements and to set a public hearing for 9th Lane Petition Millings Project in Glendale Lake Subdivision and Glendale Lake Subdivision Unit 2. Good morning, Mr. Moore.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you. Chris Mora, Public Works Director for the county. What you have before you is a petition millings project for 9th Lane. 9th Lane is a short, kind of a narrow, unpaved roadway, just 350 feet long, extends west from 43rd Avenue, just north of 8th Street. It serves just 6 residential properties of about a half acre apiece. The residents of Glendale Lakes along 9th Lane approached us within the past year requesting that the road be paved. We went through the options with them of petition paving versus petition millings. They were very receptive to a petition process. They got 100% participation from the 6 property owners. We've put together a project to put millings on the roadway. It'd be done by our Road and Bridge division of the county. What you have before you are the 2 resolutions that we would need in order to proceed. First is a providing resolution that we asked you to adopt. This is based on the fact that we received 100% participation. The second resolution would set a public hearing in which the assessment roll and plan would be prepared and filed with the clerk of the board. The total cost of the project is $11,217. The residents would pay 3/4 of that, with the county picking up 25% or $2,804. The funding for that would come from our gas tax account. And with that, staff recommends the 2 resolutions be adopted.
Any questions of Mr. Moore?
I have one.
Mr. George.
Chris, on the excuse me, on the petition paving, wasn't it at one time, or maybe it's when you have a longer road segment and more property owners, that it was a 50-50, or has it always been 75?
It's always been 75-25.
Okay. And will that include any culvert improvements on 43rd Avenue where this 9th Lane connects?
No, we discussed drainage improvements and culverts for driveways, things like that with the residents. They wanted to keep costs to a minimum, so they kept the existing cross-section of the road. It's just going to be millings over the existing dirt roadway. So we'll be excavating out 8 inches, putting in millings, compacting them, and there'll be no drainage improvements.
Okay. And is there water on that street? Do you know? I know it's on 43rd, but I don't know if it goes. I just don't want to put something in and then.
I believe there is. I have to check with utilities on that. I'm not sure.
You know, if there's.
Coordinate and make sure to put sleeves in if not.
Right. You know, so that we're not tearing up something.
Sure.
Then they go, well, we'd like water, and then we cut up the road we just put in. So, okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Moore?
Not a question, Mr. Vice Chairman. Just want to thank Chris for working on this. This, again, I just think these are really nice little projects we can do with the community, and the cost sharing and stuff. I just think makes for a nice thing for local government to be able to do this. And just want to thank Chris and Public Works and everybody for working to put this together. Thank you.
Good. Any comments or questions from the audience? There being none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval of staff recommendation.
We'll go for a motion to approve from Commissioner O'Brien with a second from Commissioner Zork. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to Commissioners' matters. We have the one that added to about all aboard Florida and the FDFC. And this is basically about the sometimes scheduled, sometimes not scheduled FDFC hearing. And Dylan sent a email to Mr. Stanton of the FDFC yesterday. And I'm just going to read one paragraph of it. As you know, the FDFC meeting scheduled for May 28th was canceled at the request of the applicant, AAF. The meeting was then rescheduled for June 10th. On Friday, the FDFC canceled the June 10th meeting. In your email below, you state that, quote, efforts are underway to reschedule the meeting for another date in June if possible, end quote. Let's see, Attorney Steve Ryan from representing both CARE sometimes in Martin County at other times has sent a couple letters to Mr. Spivey of the FDFC, the Florida Development Finance Corporation, and in those he's often asked for basically a level playing field. And I was wondering if this board would like either, well, given the timing, to have Dylan, the county attorney, put a letter together for the chairman's signature, or mine if Wesley's not back in time, basically reiterating a couple of the points that the Martin County attorney has, but I think it might be more powerful coming from a Board of County Commissioners, asking specifically two things. One, for 30 days public notice before the meeting, because we're getting into summer, and people are certainly going to probably feel like they're being treated by yo-yos the way this has been going, and it's very hard for people to regularly change their whole schedule to accommodate the FDFC. And the FDFC also, the last time around, if I get the times right, said that the meeting was going to go from 3 to 6. And if it's the same format as the prior meeting up in Tallahassee, then a lot of people probably won't be able to speak, period. Mr. Ryan did recommend in one of his letters that basically the format might be 1 hour for All Aboard Florida and 1 hour for the opposition, which may be a way to go. But I would certainly, in the letter, refer to Mr. Ryan's letters, ask for a level playing field, which would at a minimum include the 30-day notice at a convenient location with time for everybody from the public to speak. So, just wondering how, I'll ask Mr. Reingold if he has any questions or concerns, and then ask for comments from the board.
No, I just want to piggyback off what was stated by Commissioner Solari and the difficult nature of dealing with something like the FDFC. You know, as opposed to this board, where you know when your board meetings are going to be. Obviously, there could be a special call meeting for a specific issue, but you know if you're going to get bumped back a week, or if you know you're going to get bumped back to the next meeting, you can see where on the agenda it is. What I find difficult to deal with as we move into the summer with the FDFC is when you look at their May 28th meeting, it was scheduled for May 28th from 9 to 5. Then there was another meeting that was scheduled for June 10th from 3 to 6. You know, there isn't like a day of the week that you know the FDFC meets or a time that they usually meet, which just makes it very difficult for all of the interested individuals, parties, citizens to be able to prepare to attend.
Mr. Chairman, what you're doing is you're wanting to have a little bit better communication, understanding, and scheduling for this board to be able to respond to.
Yes,
and it's, I think,
and a level playing field. I mean, my sense of things is AAF knows exactly what the FDFC is going to do ahead of time, before the announcements are made. For instance, if I got it correctly, it was at the Washington hearing that we first found out through a comment from AAF that the FDFC meeting was going to be scheduled for either canceled or scheduled for the June 10th, one or the other. I mean, but we didn't hear it directly from the FDFC. We heard it from All Aboard Florida, which again makes me think that they're privy to information before we are. A level playing field would suggest that both parties get the information at the same time. A level playing field would suggest that both parties have plenty of notice before the event. A level playing field would suggest that there's plenty of time for comment from both people who are for the project and people who are against the project. So basically, all we're asking for is a level playing field, which I believe these type of governmental organizations ought to be at least trying to provide.
I appreciate your concerns, and I'm sure that there is no orchestrated or an intended manner to apply a burden for us to respond. But with that, in the spirit of looking for better communication and understanding so that we can respond appropriately with our legal staff, and since you can't make a motion, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to craft that document.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to second it. Any other comments or questions?
I have one of Dylan. At the Washington hearing we were at, when the all-aboard Florida attorney went through a series of timelines and deadlines, there's a July date that's a trigger point that they would either have to ask for an extension for. They kind of walked through it at the end of the meeting, which if they would have did it at the beginning of the hearing would have changed the tone and the context of a lot of positioning that was done. Can you kind of walk through those dates so we can understand them a little better?
I will do my best. Obviously, I don't have the transcript right in front of me, but essentially the dates that were announced, and you're right, Commissioner Zork, I'll start with this. We had a 3.5-hour long hearing in Washington, D.C. on May 29th. And at the end of the meeting, and only at the end of the meeting, did we hear from the attorney from All Aboard Florida, and as Commissioner Solari noted, not anybody represented from FDFC, but that the proposed FDFC meeting was going to be June 10th, 11th, and 12th, and that was still being scheduled. Right. And then after that, there was a June 19th meeting, which was a meeting of a board within or associated with the United States Department of Transportation. I don't have the exact name of this creditor committee that would essentially allow for an extension. I think the idea was up to 6 months for FDFC, for All Aboard Florida, and for the, essentially FDFC and All Aboard Florida to move forward, because as you just noted, Commissioner Zork, there's a July 1st deadline within the provisional allocation of the private activity bonds. So I hope that addresses your question with regards to the timelines.
It does. And a part two to that, and kind of with their counsel giving these dates to the judge, were they trying to frame, we'd really like to hear from you by some date? That's kind of how I took it, is these are things that are happening, we'd really like to hear your opinion.
Well, yeah, and that was kind of essentially the point of the whole hearing. We had moved for a preliminary injunction, as had Martin County, with regards to the issue of we need your input, Judge, before FDFC and before any other actions happen, which is where we got into the discussion about the timing of all of the bond issues. At this point, obviously, now the FDFC meeting has been canceled to a date to be determined later.
And is there a Florida statute minimum public meeting notice requirement that they have to follow, take an ad out in a newspaper a certain number of days in advance or anything? At
this point, the best I've seen is just reasonable notice. I haven't seen any other specific deadlines associated with the FDFC or this hearing.
So it could, today's Tuesday, they could say, oh, by the way, it's Thursday, potentially.
Potentially. I mean, they announced on June 1st, the June 10th meeting, just to give you a sense of the timing.
All right, thank you. No more questions.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Anybody from the audience have any questions or comments about this? There being none, we have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, a second from...
I just want to have a clarification. If you would like, I'd be happy to draft up this letter this week and have it signed by Commissioner Solari, or would the board prefer to have it come back to us next week? I just want to make sure I have proper guidance.
No need to.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning I was actually going to put it under my matters for next week, but then when I read Dylan's email, we have the possibility that they could set a meeting for the next 10 days. So I'd like to get this into them with the commissioner's objections as soon as possible.
I'll be happy to do that, and maybe we'll just put it on as an informational item next time, just so everyone's aware of what was sent.
That'd be great.
Perfect. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Moving on to special districts and board, the Solid Waste Disposal District. We have the approval.
Move approval of the minutes of May 12, 2015.
We have a motion for Commissioner O'Brien. I'll second it. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Amendment number 2 to work order number 1, Kessler Consulting, Inc. for service transition assistance.
Move safe recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion for Commissioner Flesher, second from Commissioner O'Brien. Any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And gentlemen, I hope you all individually and perhaps collectively at the next meeting tell Commissioner Davis that this meeting was over at 9:34, and we will now adjourn.
You know, if it wasn't for the added item, it might have been a record.